Hey, Greg here, founder of www.wrestling-divas.webs.com, your source for highlighting the most beautiful and deadly entertainers in professional wrestling. Taking off the site's first interview of the new year, I have a very special guest joining me today. She is a pro wrestler, model, actress, dancer, referee, and manager, and she has been involved with the wrestling industry for about 2 years now. Although young in her career, she's making quite a name for herself on the independent scene. I'd like to introduce my next special guest, the very lovely and talented Renee Michelle. Hi, Renee. How are you?
Hi, hon. How are you? Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it's my pleasure, really. I was reading about you earlier today and former interviews that you've done, and you have a very interesting background to me because you're, as far as your career goals and athletic background, you're very diverse, and unlike many fans in the industry who eventually become wrestlers, you didn't grow up a wrestling fan. You were never brought up with it. Yes, you did understand to a certain extent what it was, but it wasn't until 2 years ago when you attended your first Spike TV Impact Wrestling show that you really fell in love with the industry after someone approached you about being involved. So my first question to you is, what about that show, or what about seeing that live performance really ignited this passion inside you?
Well, actually, how it all started is that I had a few friends of mine that invited me to go into a wrestling, event. And like I said, I never grew up in wrestling at all, so I decided to go. While I was there, I was discovered by Dwayne Gilbert. He was very quite determined to get me into it. As much as I was saying no, thank you, But he convinced me, and when I started training, and understanding somewhat of the industry, and, I started falling in love with the sport. So other than that, I wouldn't change it for the world, and I met, great individuals.
So when you first started training, oftentimes for a girl, rather difficult because there aren't that many girls out there. I've spoken to many individuals who were the only girl in their class and all the rest of them were guys. So did you ever feel under pressure being a girl in the industry and trying to make a name for yourself starting out and trying to prove yourself for the guys? What was that like?
It was tough. I'm not going to lie. It was very tough, especially for an individual who never grew up on it. So you deal with individuals who have, grown up from it, since they were little, and then, they're like, well, who's this girl? And she never grew up on it, So automatically, people would judge, people would assume, people would, rumors, you name it. But also on the quote of that, I've been wrestling less than a year. But the year before that, I got into it at the end of October that previous year.
So when you get started in the wrestling industry, you're not only thrusted into the physical side of it and, you have to deal with the pain, you're also thrusted into the politics end of it as well, because at the end of the day, according to many people that I've interviewed, you're not there to make friends, you're there to get noticed. So was adjusting to that backstage atmosphere difficult for you, and how have you adjusted to dealing with that end of the industry?
I would if I just stayed professional, as much as sometimes you're going to get out of character and, tell individuals, a piece of your mind, I would say always stay professional, keep your opinions to yourself. Keep your mouth shut, keep your eyes and ears open, because things get around real quick. You don't want to make enemies. Karma comes around in a weird way. Mm-hmm. But so far, as far as you definitely gonna have to have a tough skin to be in the business as well. And take the criticisms as a good thing, because in a way, in the long run, it's going to help you, in the future.
So when you step into the ring, personally speaking, disregarding your own wrestling character for a second, a lot of people take something away from it that's different than everybody else's experience. Some people do it for the adrenaline rush. Some people do it because that's where they feel that they belong and they want to put on a good show. When you step into the ring and perform, what do you look for? What do you want to get out of the experience for yourself, personally speaking?
Like I said before, before I got into wrestling, I was also doing acting and modeling. So as far as entertaining, I love to entertain people. Wrestling is, a challenge, and it's a different world of its own. So I do like to deal with the adrenaline, the rush, but also being able to tell a story to the audience. But instead of me having to speak it, I'll just tell it with my body.
So did you ever find it difficult to adjust to the pain of getting used to all these moves and taking all the bumps? How have you adjusted to that scene? Because sometimes I've honestly spoke to some people who weren't expecting that level of pain and almost quit. So was that difficult for you, or were you expecting it?
I was more so expecting it. You're slamming your body, against a hard platform. But as far as with me, I grew up on martial arts since the age of 4. So they teach you all these moves and whatnot. I'm not necessarily saying that they all are the same. So, but it's like a natural instinct. Okay, if you're gonna fall, you have to duck your head, or if this person's giving you a move, how are you gonna react to if it's hurting you or whatever the case may be. So I wouldn't necessarily say that it was hard. I think it was more so of a benefit for me because I grew up on martial arts. I did Kung Fu, Muay Thai, Taekwondo, and weapons. So, I wouldn't necessarily, it was hard for me to okay, I see a move and then I do. Monkey see, monkey do type of thing.
So how do you think your background, like you said, in martial arts and performance arts has aided you in the wrestling industry? Where do you see similarities and where do you see differences as well?
Well, as far as the differences, they're all, in a way, it is all the same, It's a contact sport. You don't want to be able to hurt the individual completely, but, you do want to be able to, like, hey, this is me, this is who I am, realize who you're dealing with. Unlike with wrestling, to perform, for the audience, you do want to be able to help each other in a way and not really necessarily hurt each other. Now, 9 times out of 10, I can't always promise that an individual never gets hurt. There's stories, of course, people who have gotten hurt in the ring, just as well as martial arts, so there's a similarity as well. It's more so, it's a Heinz 57. It all depends on the situation. It all depends on the impact. It all depends on the moves, the submissions. In a way it's similar, but also on top of that, it has its differences as well. Unlike with martial arts, it's like, okay, you can really hurt someone, but also the same thing with wrestling, you can also hurt an individual as well. So there's a little, I have to really sit down and think, the differences of it, but in a way it's similar, versus when you're there in a match in the martial arts, there's not so much of a storyline to be told. You literally have to think of defeating that individual, so you could win. Even if it's in regards of, dislocating someone's arm to cracking a rib to KOing someone, unlike, wrestling, there's always a story behind it.
speaking of the story aspects of wrestling, a big component of training is the in-ring psychology, and many veterans would argue that's more important than learning the fundamentals of the physical moves, because there's always a conflict within the match, good versus evil, and then you add all the diverse characters involved. It could really make for a very interesting physical story. So, being young in your career, how are you processing what in-ring psychology means, and where would you like to be as far as in the future with your knowledge in in-ring psychology? Because I'm sure it takes years and years to master.
Oh, yes. With psychology, you never stop learning with psychology. I will admit I am still new, but I'm learning. I will not say that I'm the greatest, but it's a slow process. I mean, some people, they could be a natural at it. Some people, it just takes time. But, hopefully within the future, I'm hoping that I'll be a lot further and more on point than where I am right now.
So a big component of wrestling on the independent scene as opposed to, let's say, a televised program is that a lot of the matches that you're going to have aren't going to be taped for you to see later. I mean, some independent scenes have that luxury, but some of them don't. And I'm sure acting in performance arts has helped you, but how do you perform at your best live in front of an audience and make sure that they get the most out of your performance? Because it's not going to happen again. There aren't any repeats.
Oh, no, there's definitely never a repeat. Let's just say if I was to mess up, I have to figure out a way so it won't be noticeable to the audience. But then, in the same sense, you have to think of something else along on the fly, to cover it up or to either, change the psychology of the planning in a way. But other than that, I mean, I will admit that I have made my few oops, in the ring, and I try to cover it up, or the other individual try to help me cover it up as much as we possibly can, so it doesn't look that noticeable. But you can always cross your fingers on that. But it's a learning process. Like I said, you never stop learning. You're always going to learn. If you feel one day that you completely think that you have it all, or you think that you need to stop learning, then it's really time to hang up the boots.
So before a match, I mean, obviously this is a case, especially for someone that's new, but I think certainly everyone gets nervous before a match, whether big or small, and regardless of the audience member size. What kind of process do you not only, I mean, this can be subjected to whether you do it psychologically or more physically, what kind of preparation process do you go through before a match, and why do you do that? Because, getting used to that kind of preparation, it takes time and certainly effort to get the nerves settled.
Usually what I do before I go out there to the audience, I try to do some yoga stretches, some inhaling, exhaling, because I never stop getting nervous. I'm always getting nervous. I will have butterflies flying around my stomach, hands shaking. I feel excitement, but also nervousness. So I try to remember everything as much as I possibly can, and the best way to do it is when you're there in the ring is to slow down. If you think that you're going slow, go even slower. Because there's 100 million things that start rushing through your mind, and you never, you don't want to mess up, but, there's never, no one's not perfect either. So as far as that, just try to relax, try to woo-saw it out, breathe, inhale, exhale, take deep breaths, trying to remember in your mind, going over the match on what to do, what not to do, whatever the case may be, how would the audience would react, to get a feel of how the audience would react, but also what would you do in certain situations, too, in worst-case scenario.
So I've heard a lot of people say, and of course this is subjective to debate, but as far as getting noticed and being a character that stands out, much like in acting, you have to look the part before you get it. So with that in mind, wrestling is certainly a physical sport, but it's also entertainment-based as well. Do you think that wrestling should be more entertainment-based or more focused on athleticism? How do you think that kind of those two factors should balance out?
How do I think I should balance it out? I mean, personally, in my opinion, I think it's also good to have both, And the reason why I'm saying it's good to have both is because, unfortunately, I'm really not trying to sell me in today's society, especially with entertainment. Sex sells. Sex do sells. And I'm not trying to be like a douche or anything, but it is what it is. But also on top of that, if you have the look, which is great, but also you can also deliver the package as well as the physical aspect of wrestling, that's even better. You're more so like a triple threat. And unfortunately, there's some stories that I have heard of other girls like, yeah, she has the part, but her wrestling's not on point, or yeah, she has the part, the looks and everything, but her wrestling's on point. So it's a Heinz 57 on that. I personally feel that that it should have both. But that's just personally my opinion. Because it's entertaining. You're entertaining the audience. What will capture the audience attention? What will capture their eyes? Like for a prime example, okay. All girls, we come in different sizes, but we have a unique features about us or physical aspects or athleticism that is completely different from all the other girls. Or you may have something that the other girl may want, but she doesn't necessarily have what you have, if that makes any sense. But that's what stands each and every individual out.
So as you, I'm sorry.
No, what were you saying?
So, as you just mentioned, some people have passion when they approach pretty much anything, but especially in the entertainment industry. Some people have passion, some people don't. What is the difference between not just females, of course, but males included, those who really want to make it for the right reasons and those who don't? Can you just tell by looking at them or the way that they carry themselves backstage? What's that kind of signal to you that their heart's not really in this?
For me, from my observation, so far you could possibly tell by having a conversation with an individual to observing them, of how the way they feel or how the way they behave. You really have to sit there and kind of look, and analyze. I'm not trying to be weird or anything, but you also have to sit there and look and analyze each and every individual. Like, okay, this person, he's really, really pumped into it. He's really excited. This would be great for him. He really wants this. He put the effort, the drive, the dedication. He has a lot of ambition of really wanting this and wanting to make it. Unlike some individuals who becomes bitter, and basically gives up on everything, but still does it, which I can't seem to fathom and understand it. But it's like, okay, instead of being bitter at the individual or being bitter around you, it's like no one can't help you but you. So if you want to get noticed, or if you want to stand out, or if you want to be able to show people that you really want this, you got to put some effort into yourself, because no one else is not going to do it except for you.
So they always say that wrestling is very time-consuming, and for a lot of people it's a lifestyle, and some people can't walk away from it, for better or worse. So when your career finally does come to an end, and I'm assuming that's not going to be for a while since your career just started a few years ago, how do you think what you've done in wrestling or the decisions that you made or the role model that you set out, how will that affect the decisions that you make in the future even after you hang up your boots?
To be totally honest, I hope it doesn't take any type of effect, but you never know. You know, life is funny that way, you know. Who knows, you know. I may do it until something breaks, or I may do it until I'm like, okay, I'm ready, you know, to settle down and have a family and have kids. You know, as far as right now, will it affect anything? No, not as of right now. You know, I mean, I'm pretty good with my job. You know, it pays my bills to put a roof over my head. You know, I do the wrestling because I enjoy it. I fell in love with the sport. You know, it's an addiction. I'm not going to lie. It became a complete addiction to me. So, of course, I want to improve. I want to get better. I want to, you know, get better and develop more much faster.
So when the fans see you and you know, they watch your match, what is it like not only to, you know, perform from them and be in the middle of that moment, but what is it that you want them to take away from you? When I think of Renee Michelle, what is it that you want me to think about as far as the role model you set out and the types of skills that you have?
Well, when you think of me, I'm hoping that you think that I'm a nice individual. But other than that, you know, of course, you know, I'm the Native American. You know, my family is from the Aniwaya tribe. You know, not that many natives, you know, are out in the wrestling industry. So of course, I want to bring that to the table. I want to be able to expand that because there's not that many natives so much in sports, especially within the wrestling industry. So, of course, I want to make sure that people, other individuals, go like, okay, wow, you know, here's Renee Michelle, the Native American from the Aniwaya tribe who's trying to make a name for herself or who's, you know, trying to you know, stage out, okay, hey, you know, we're not like the last of the Mohicans. We're still here, you know, type of thing. But also, you know, you also have an individual. Here's a girl who never grew up on wrestling. And she got into the sport, and as many individuals could say that, oh, she'll never make it because she never grew up on it or she doesn't know what she's doing or whatever the case may be, I am more than likely the type of person that will want to prove that individual wrong, you know, and it will be up to me to do so. And that's my motivation. You know, my motivation is not only that to prove people wrong, like, hey, you know, I'm not just a pretty face. I'm not just, you know, a model or actress or whatever the case may be. I can also wrestle and I could take the hits, you know. But not only on top of that, I may not grow up on it, but, you know, don't prove me, you know, I will prove you wrong that I will catch up.
So before we wrap up and get to how people can contact you for bookings and whatnot, if you could sum up your experience in wrestling so far as a performer in any aspect in just one word, what would that one word be?
In any aspect for wrestling?
Yes.
I would say it's epic. You know, it's never a dull moment. You know, definitely never a dull moment. I definitely enjoy it a lot. I wouldn't trade it for the world. You know, I mean, I could have just continued on with my acting and modeling, and you know what, the wrestling, it took more it took more of a prior to me than modeling and acting, and I enjoy it a lot. You know, I wouldn't trade it for the world. But it's definitely an epic situation. You know, and it's an epic, you know, road. You know, you're going to have your bumps. You're going to have your ups and downs. You know, you're going to have your positives. You're going to have your negatives. It's never a dull moment.
So I know that you're on various social media websites and have different ways that people can contact you, but for the record, what's the official way that fans or bookers can contact you for whatever shows or signings or whatnot? So how can they get in touch with you?
I have 2 Facebooks, but fortunately one already filled up, but they could contact me at facebook.com, Renee Michelle, or they could also contact me through the other one, only message, of course. Unfortunately, like I said, you know, it already hit its limits of friends. They could also message me there at Facebook.com, Lady Renee Michelle. You also have my Twitter, which is Renee Michelle, and my Instagram, which is Lady RM.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm really glad that this was a great opportunity for fans to get to really know you and how you carry yourself. And I just have to say that I really admire your attitude, and I really enjoyed this interview. So keep up the good work, and thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. And also, I'll be out on the shows like this Friday. I'll be in Edison, New Jersey for JCW, along with, you know, the 22nd will be a big one in Joplin Marketplace in Joplin, Maryland, MCW. And then also the 29th, you'll see me there at 5 Star Wrestling in Cranberry Township, PA.
Well, fantastic, and I'll be sure to post all those dates up when we get the interview up. And thank you so much for your time, and thanks to everyone else for tuning in. Be sure to check out www.wrestling-divas.webs.com for more content, and follow the website on Twitter at Wrestling Divas, again with the Z at the end, for all the latest teasers and updates.
Thank you so much.